This is kvci.blogspot.com. I'm George Boston Rhynes. On YouTube, Boston G.B.R. I'm over in Quitman, Georgia, and back with me at the Quitman Free Press. And this is the Quitman Free Press newspaper. And because there is so much one-sidedness in this newspaper, and it is as if though the citizens have little recourse of addressing the issues that is brought up in the Quitman Free Press week after week after week. And so for the last 3 papers, I intend to address some of the issues and consistently address the viewpoints that are in the Quitman Free Press. And since it goes unchallenged and without any opposition, people can believe that what is published in the Quitman Free Press is the gospel, or that it is the only view, because there is little to no opposing views to Mr. Robert E. Tribble or Mr. Jack Harrell. And so based upon that, we're going to address the Quitman Free Press that were published August the 29th, 2012, page 4A. We're talking about the viewpoint by Mr. Robert Tribble, which says health care laws need overturning. Now we know everybody in Brooks County and Lowndes County, in fact everybody of average intelligence, will understand that this is mostly a conservative viewpoint. You would have to be Ray Charles in order to see this. Even Ray Charles can see that. And so we're not going to address this particular story because it's like all the rest of them. And the thing about it that makes it so sad in 2012 is that there is no opposing views that's listed in the Quitman Free Press, and therefore I can only imagine how people would feel if they were in opposition to the Quitman Free Press, but yet there is nothing published to show that there may be another side to the story. Moving down to the bottom of the last paper that was published, of course, we go to Jack Harrell. And in the paper under Jack Harrell, of course, the heading reads, Racist Seek to Divide. And this is part 2. Part 1 that he did last week was dealing with race and racism, wherein I defined that racism by the People's Institute, by some profound people, said that race prejudice plus power equals racism. And that was the definition that was given for racism. Therefore, if you're not in power, then it's kind of hard to discriminate against anyone if you can't impact their lives through employment, through business opportunities, etc., etc., etc. And so I find that the People's Institute to give a pretty broad, fair definition of what a racist is. So let me state it once again. Race prejudice plus power equals racism. Now we know there are more than one definition, but I like that because if you're not in a position of power, then you can't deny anybody getting a job, going into business, or whatever it may be. You have to be in a position of power. And so that's why we love that definition, as I stated earlier. Now, Mr. Jack Harrell in the Quitman Free Press, under the heading of Sound the Alarm, Racists Seek to Divide. He states this week's column of race and racism, he's doing a part 2 on it, and he said that he wanted to bring it closer to the local area. And in this article that he wrote, a column rather, he talks about every individual or group who choose to be a racist and practice racism does so as a personal choice. And he goes on and talk about a condition of the heart. But down further, he says such persons or groups are not difficult to identify. They are always out to divide, number one, to polarize the population concerning the issues, to bring people against each other along racial or gender lines. He also states that they are also use political party lines. And he goes one step further to say the racists never seek to unify. Now, if the racists never seek to unify, then we can only imagine what has happened in this country. We know who the dividers are and those who keep the community separated. We know the people who separated family against family, school system against school system, regardless of what it was. History records, regardless of who people want to call the racists here in Brooks County or any other county, all you have to do is check the historical archival record, and you can follow who the real racists are and was in the past years of American history. And so this is not like we creating a new monster or creating a new Jesus. All we have to do is to check the archival record. In fact, Brooks County is named after a man called Brooks. And I'm suggesting, I'm asking all of you to research the name, the man for which Brooks County itself was named after. Look at his historical record, and let's get deeper into this word and this project that Mr. Jack Harrell has taken upon himself without any opposition here in Brooks County. As a native of Brooks County, it bothers me that the Quitman Free Press can keep putting out subjects like this and standing and traveling along one line without any opposition. I don't see an editor publishing opposing views. Now, I'm not saying that anybody from Brooks County should oppose Mr. Jack Harrell or Mr. Tribble or anyone else. But what I am saying is that somebody should be employed by the paper who would give, or at least maybe Cornell West or maybe some other writer, to give some opposing views to what is published here in the Quitman Free Press so repeatedly, because if people keep hearing this stuff, and I do mean stuff, then they will begin to believe it, and it does not have to always be true. Going right along, Mr. Harrell also talked about regarding the elections in Brooks County since the 2010 election. And it seemed like to me there's a possibility that this particular article in dealing with racism is pointing a finger at a person or a group of people, possibly here in Brooks County, concerning the Quitman 10 and what is going on at the Board of Elections with Supervisor Ken Collins and Chairman Duncan and others, other problems that we are having here in Brooks County, including me, a concerned citizen and native, who have been unable to get on the agenda for the Brooks County Board of Education to address my fellow citizens, the local press, the local elected officials, the assistant chairman or president, and the president, Brad Shealy. I can't get on the board to address them. Now, in Valdosta, Valdosta is a metro city, much larger than Brooks County. Yet all you have to do is walk up to the door, sign your name, walk in on the day of the meeting, and you are on the agenda. Now, everybody seems to say there's very little or anything wrong here in Brooks County with the Board of Elections, as if though we don't have a video that highlights some major problems, allegedly, that took place on election day that surrounded the election just a month ago. And so we must question the purpose in calling or casting a shadow and talk about who is the racist. Now, we know here in Brooks County, if you want to talk about race or racism, all we have to do once again is go back and check the historical record. Very few people want to talk about the week of terror here in Brooks County, which is a week of terror from May the 17th through the May 24th, when 13 to 15 blacks was murdered here in Brooks County, and nobody, not a single person, has been brought before the bar of justice. We also had people that have been drowned in ponds, other mysterious deaths, wherein nothing has taken place in terms of receiving justice here in Brooks County. Now, when you want to talk about racism, we must get to the core of this thing. Otherwise, we can believe that this is a new occurrence. This is not a new occurrence. Jesus said, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set and make you free." And when you speak truth to power, you don't have to worry about just printing or publishing one side of the story. You will be open for all challenges so we can find out who is telling the truth and who is lying. So we can tell where the real man, we can tell who the real person is standing behind the curtain and pulling the strings that feed into the minds of people that could very well brainwash people if they only get one side of the story. So in conclusion of this particular article by Mr. Jack Harrell, in the last paragraph he reads, we can expose the racists for what they are and who they are. It's not so much today about exposing the racists. It's not a hidden thing. Most of us know the racists. If we have racists in our community, most of us know them. When I was coming up here in Brooks County, I was born in 1951. My grandmother knew who were the racists. She knew the good people, the bad people. She used to work for white people. She knew what was on the inside of their homes, and she knew who they were. And in this community here, the children know the mindset of their mother, their father, their sister, their uncle, their aunties, their friends, and even the people who go to church and placate, duplicate, and imitate the Jesus in the Bible who only knew love. He didn't retaliate a person because they were of a different political persuasion or religious persuasion or of different skin color. That was like, this whole thing is, all this race is not a new occurrence. And I say again, all we have to do, short form and in closing, is check the historical documented record. Check with the city council and see from the time this city and county was established, if the laws were fair and if voting was fair. Look at the sheriff's department and see how many black sheriffs you had. Look at the chief of police and see how many black chief of police you had. Look in the courthouse until this very day and see who's getting money from the taxpayers. See if the employment is fair. Look at the county building and see all the jobs and who have the management jobs. Look at the businesses here on Main Street in Brooks County. For whatever reason, ask yourself a question: is it fair? Is it just? Look at the banks and see who are the bank managers. And, you know, so it's easy for you to find out what the deal is. Now, we're not talking and saying to you that a person that is rich is a racist. We're not saying that. But what we are saying is that the definition, according to the People's Institute, says race prejudice plus power equals racism. That means a poor man on the street as a bomb. Nothing that he do or does can impact your life, cause your light bill to go up, decide how much you're gonna pay for eggs, butter, or gasoline, how much money you gonna get on your job an hour. He can't tell you that. He has no impact on that. And you know, if there's no impact, he can't have nothing to do with your life. But if a person got 3,000 people employed and he don't have anybody that looks like you in his plant, that can impact your daily lives. That could impact the type of religion that you are. That could impact every aspect of your life, especially if you're in a small, very small community. If you don't own anything, it's hard for you to be what they call a racist by the People's Institute definition of a racist. And so I'm just going to close out by saying that we will be letting the people know that just because something is published in a newspaper don't mean that it is the truth. And we must start challenging people such as Mr. Jack Harrell, and I will be more than willing to sit down with him as well as Mr. Tribble and let us dialogue, but above all, let us have opposing viewpoints, because we are living in 2012 now, and just because somebody says there's an elephant in the city limits don't mean that there's an elephant in the city. And I want to say this again. As Mr. Harrell stood up for the Brooks County Board of Elections, and those that are employed. All I'm asking you to do is go to Boston G.B.R. and look at the video footage of an entire meeting that took place July the 17th, 2012, and you come to some type of conclusion within your own head. And then after you've done that, ask yourself, why didn't Mr. Harold report about what took place at that meeting? Why didn't he address that issue? In fact, the beef for what took place at that meeting, as well as the Brooks County Board of Education meeting, during some past meetings wherein President Brad Sheila was not even at the meeting. Many of them. Yet when Mr. Frank Thomas missed a few meetings, it was in the Quitman Free Press. But I have documentation of the meetings that the other president was not in attendance, especially when Dr. Nancy Dennard was president. Yet the Quitman Free Press, you didn't report that, did you? But you reported Frank Thomas. So we're gonna ensure that the people of Brooks County get better because they deserve better. I'm a native of Brooks County. I served 20+ years in the United States Armed Forces, fighting for freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech for people in foreign nations. Should I not address the freedoms here in Brooks County and in the Quitman city limits, wherein people apparently are being bamboozled, hoodwinked, and possibly even lied to in order to maintain a power structure that have been in existence for a long, long time. And I say to you, what say you, the American people, outside of Brooks County, Quitman and South Georgia in general? Do you not believe that the people have a right to know? This is Boston G.B.R. doing what we do because it seemed like nobody else want to do it. Bye-bye, we're gone.